Hello, welcome to the Mediocre Takes podcast, the podcast where we share our mediocre takes on the shows and movies we watch. I'm Marco and here with my co-host Mel. How are you doing, Mel?
It's so ironic that we're reviewing this specific Batman film today.
I don't get it.
We've literally been having a snowstorm for like 4 days.
Oh, I don't think I would get gotten that even if you straight up told me. Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, it's really bad where we live right now. It's really snowy.
It's really icy.
Yeah, I really want to drive somewhere because I've been stuck in the house all day, but I can't because of the snow. I've never driven in snow before. Have you?
Oh,
I
I
doubt.
just did. It's horrible. No, actually, technically, I
Oh.
rode on ice because we're dealing with ice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, guys, we live in different areas, so we're experiencing two different things. A lot of the power around where I live went out.
Yeah, I live like 30 minutes away from Mel, so it's a pretty long drive, but sometimes I go over there for work or stuff. I actually quit my job though, so yeah. Anyways, today is the continuation of our Batman animated movie retrospective / marathon. Today we're talking about Batman and Mr. Freeze Subzero, so let's just get into it. So, a little bit of backstory. Batman and Mr. Freeze Subzero is based off the story of the Batman animated series. In the animated series, it's basically the same as like any Mr. Freeze story. So, Mr. Freeze is a scientist who put his wife Nora Freeze in a cryogenic, I think, cell because she was diagnosed with a disease that had no cure at this point. Batman would capture Mr. Freeze and put him in Arkham until he escapes due to a man who wants to gain immortality. Eventually, the man dies, and we are left off with Mr. Freeze taking care of Nora Freeze. And yeah, that's basically where we're left off during the TV show. So in the movie, Mr. Freeze kidnaps Batgirl, also known as Barbara Gordon, to save Nora from dying. Batman and Robin save the day, and in the end, Mr. Freeze fakes his death with Nora being cured. Time for notes! The music in this movie reminds me of the first ever Lego Batman game. I think it mostly is the beginning of the movie. I think it has to do with the theme song. Like the very beginning, it just gave me Lego Batman vibes for some reason. And it's probably because I grew up with Lego Batman and I haven't grown up with any Batman media.
I think, and maybe I'm a bad Batman fan for not knowing right off the top of my head, but the original animated series, the theme song for that was a theme song used in every Lego Batman game.
Well, that does explain why I found that theme so familiar. I find it funny in the first two ever Batman animated movies we watched, there are two fake deaths right after each other. Like Batman Mask of Phantasm has a fake death and Subzero also has a fake death. I just find that really interesting. So, why did they add Mr. Freeze being a dad into the plot when it's barely used? I feel like you could have removed the child aspect from this plot and everything would have stayed pretty much the same. You could just rewrite the scene where Barbara or Batgirl escapes and get rid of the character altogether.
Yeah, I was wondering what they were trying to do with that character. Like, he sort of acted as the moral one in the dynamic. So I feel like they were maybe trying to make parallels. I really don't know what they were trying to do with him. I don't think they did anything of importance with him. He was kind of an underutilized character.
Yeah, I remember I saw someone say that they were trying to use him to like show that Mr. Freeze isn't like a total bad guy. But I feel like if that was what the writers were going for, it really didn't show. I wish we got to see Nora Freeze wake up and being alive. Like I felt like it would have been really cool if we saw her awake without Mr. Freeze and everything. I feel like that would have added to this movie. I don't know, it just felt like a missed opportunity. Why did they never explain that Barbara was Batgirl? I'm assuming you're supposed to know just because of the animated show, but I was just confused on why they didn't say that straight up. I feel like for those who haven't watched the animated show or who aren't familiar with the Batman lore, you wouldn't really know that.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest issues with this movie in general is that it is a tie-in with the show, and it's not like a standalone movie like The Mask of Phantasm. So it really, I just hate when like you have to watch something before you can watch this other thing.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Also, speaking of Batgirl, I feel like they really had a missed opportunity when it came to Batgirl. I feel like she could have been way more used in this movie because we only see her for like a few scenes and then that's it. And then the rest of the time it's just her as Barbara. I really loved the conflict and like the last 30 to 20 minutes. I will say this movie felt like a bit too slow while Mask of Phantasm felt a bit too fast. I love what they did to Mr. Freeze. His character was really good, and I love that they chose to focus on more of Mr. Freeze more than Batman. So there are 3D animated scenes, and even though I do see people saying it's bad, I actually didn't really mind it, which is a surprise to me because like I really hate like 3D animation and 2D animated movies.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I'm surprised that people thought it was bad because I also didn't think it was bad. And it makes me wonder, like, is there something out there that seamlessly integrates 2D and 3D or CG animation to the point where like you can't notice it at all? Because I think that it did it very well, especially since it's a 90s film. And like, I don't know, I'm not mad about it. It was noticeable, but it wasn't like I wasn't like, "Oh my god, this is so bad." That's a little nitpicky. I feel like they're maybe comparing it to Mask of Phantasm. So, they're like, "Oh, how dare they?"
Were there 3D scenes in Mask of Phantasm?
No. But they're probably like, "Oh, like
Oh,
Mask of
okay.
Phantasm was this amazing film. They didn't use
Mhm.
3D animation."
Yeah, I don't really see why people said the 3D animation in this movie was that bad. Honestly, even though it is, I guess, kind of bad for a 90s film, I still feel like they did it kind of seamlessly. Like it wasn't that obnoxious, I guess. It was kind of iconic of Mr. Freeze to raise polar bears. I did not see that coming, and I don't know why they added that to the film, but I enjoyed it. I love that Barbara actually fights back. Even though she is the damsel in distress, she actually like fights back during these scenes. I still don't know why they made Batgirl a damsel in distress. Like I have mixed feelings about that. Also, I was confused about this. How are they able to save Nora without having someone of the same blood type? Because they're talking about how like they needed Barbara and everything. I don't know. I feel like it could have been better if they came up with a different reason of why Batgirl was needed by Mr. Freeze other than needing her blood. Like if they just came up with a different plot device. I don't know, that plot device felt like too convenient. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I will never get over how Dick Grayson's Robin looks in this because he looks too big to be wearing the Robin suit. It makes him look so silly.
He looks like an actual man, which is
I
strange.
know.
Because
I
I've
know.
always I've always saw as Raymond I always saw Robin as like a child. So I don't know, it's kind of strange.
I think he's like a high schooler in this. I'm not sure. Like junior or senior. I know that soon after his graduation, he leaves Batman to become Nightwing. And this happens before that. So I'm assuming he's still in high school. But he ain't built like a high school. Well, maybe like a football high, whatever. Anyway, he looks goofy as fuck in that outfit. I said in our Mask of Phantasm review that Joker hits women, but he doesn't do it because he specifically wants to hit women. He just likes to hit people. But Mr. Freeze, he beats women. I love how the animators drew Dr. Belson's eyes because they were so creepy and weird, and that is exactly how I feel whenever I see someone with blue eyes. Like, no offense, they just look like really strange.
I definitely agree with you. It was strange.
Yeah, it was just like blue circles. Like, he didn't even get real eyes. Whenever someone writes a story about Mr. Freeze, I always get excited on which way they're gonna go with him. Because usually he's either written as an absolute simp that would become a domestic terrorist to get his wife back, or he becomes a domestic terrorist because he's a possessive weirdo who just kind of wants her, you know? And like you pointed out, the end of the film, the entire fight scene on the burning ship was so cool, and I honestly think it was the best part of this film, sadly. So how do we feel about Nora surviving? Like I know that there's that plot hole of how in the world did she live? But how do we feel about her surviving? Because I kind of feel like the only story in which she lives should be a story in which Mr. Freeze dies, or vice versa. Because in my opinion, only one of them can live. I think that makes their storyline much more interesting.
I kind of agree with you. I'm not really well versed in the Batman, like, I don't know, lore, I guess, or like Batman media. So I felt okay about it. Maybe if I was more used to like one of them dying in other media, I would feel a bit weird about it. But for me personally, I thought it was okay.
Okay. Okay. I want you to read my recommendation then, because I'd love for your opinions on that, Mr. Freeze.
Overall, this was a decent film. I feel like the beginning was kind of slow and kind of bad at some points. I will say I really did enjoy the chase scene where Robin is chasing after Mr. Freeze and Barbara. That was a really good scene. I didn't talk about it that much, mostly because I kind of forgot to. But I feel like the scene was really well done and well animated. I really enjoyed the last part of this film. I felt like this film also did drag on a bit, but overall, I felt like it was pretty decent.
It's a great Bat family film. It's an okay Batman film. And that's mostly because the creators behind this were told to make it more kid-friendly than the previous film. And it was also meant to cross-promote the notorious live-action Batman and Robin film. You know, the one with the nipples. And it also it sucks that oh
Don't say
yes.
that.
But it's the one with the nipples.
It's gross.
But it literally
Nasty.
that's that's part of what makes it so, I don't bad. It's the nipples.
Special?
Mm,
It makes it special, yeah.
debatable. It also just kinda sucks that Batman was basically put on the back burner in a Batman film, and you talked about this before, but the way that they tied Batgirl and Robin into this story was kind of lame. Like, coincidentally, Barbara has the same rare blood type as Mr. Freeze's wife, and Dick has a crush on her, and that's why they're both in this film. That is lame. I just wish the creators didn't have to basically make an advertisement for a horrible Batman live action film. There was so much they could have done and so many stories they could have explored. But hey, amazing animation.
Okay, before we go into our mediocre minute, I have a question for you, Mel. So we're going to be tier ranking all of the Batman anime movies we watched after we watched all of them. So if you could predict which ranking you would put them from S to F, where would it be?
See.
I feel like for me it would be a B. I really like how they wrote Mr.
Whoa.
Freeze in this. What?
I'm just surprised. I mean, I feel like you have to have
Well,
Batman for it to be a Batman film, but
really? I will say I haven't watched any of the other Batman films, so maybe this will change.
I it's just I think that if it's gonna be a Batman film, then Bruce Wayne has to be more a part of the story than he was in this. And I feel like if that's not the case, then I can't rank it higher than a B, and it gets a C because I don't know, it was like the other characters were written into it poorly. And the only reason it wasn't lower than a C was because I really liked the animation.
Not the only reason?
Yeah.
Wow.
Though we had a cold reception to this film, we can assure you we have some hot recommendations, which is perfect because it is time for a little segment I like to call the Mediocre Minute. This is a tiny little micro moment where me and Marco recommend books, comics, music, games, and more for you all to check out. My recommendation is Batman, One Bad Day, Mr. Freeze. It's part of the One Bad Day series. You don't have to read all of them just to read this one. They're all separate stories, they don't connect. But the story of Mr. Freeze in this comic isn't original, but it was very well written. And just like all the other One Bad Day comics, we get to see some great character exploration. I genuinely really liked the ending. And it did make Mr. Freeze as a character a little bit more interesting to me. It's definitely way better than what we got in this film, in my opinion. Marco, what is your recommendation?
So my recommendation is a manga called Catch These Hands. Catch These Hands is about a woman in her 20s who used to be a delinquent, and it's about another girl who also used to be a delinquent, and it's about their romance. It's okay so far. I kind of have mixed feelings on it. I enjoy it for what it is, but at the same time, it's also like not something I like to return to that much. I've only read the first two volumes, so that could change. There's 4 volumes in total, and yeah, that was my recommendation.
I have also started reading this. I don't think you recommended this to me. I think I just saw it. Or did you recommend this to me before?
No, I did not
Okay.
recommend this to you.
Okay. I just found it on the internet and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'll buy this." And then I told you about it and you were like, "Oh, I've read that too. I've only read the first one,
Yeah.
but I like it so far. It's okay.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's okay.
That's how I feel too. Anyways, you guys, that's our thoughts on Batman and Mr. Freeze Subzero. If you want to send us a voice message on Spotify for podcasters, I'll be link in the description to do so below. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which are @MidTakesPod, and that's everything. So, goodbye. Yay! Stop recording.
Slay.